So, hello and welcome to Rappler Talk Entertainment. My name is Amanda Lago. If you've been keeping track of all the BL shows to come from Pinoy creators recently, then you will have heard of Gaya Sa Pelikula. It's the latest BL show to hit the screens and make viewers feel all kinds of things. It was created by Juan Miguel Severo, directed by JP Habak, and it stars Ian Pangilinan and Paolo Pangilinan, who are here with me today and who have been
Hi.
hi, yeah, and they've been making fans feel kilig and squeal even before the show premiered. So I guess to kick off this convo, how does it feel, guys, knowing that you've had that effect on people even before the show came out?
Well, it's obviously very fun.
Mhm.
Pero like I think the best part about it is it feels fulfilling because that means na like the show actually affects people, which is what we've been like trying to do
Mhm.
naman talaga since the
Yeah,
very start.
it's been a lot of feelings, but then mostly it was just anticipation, excitement
Mhm.
for the things that were yet to come, and then it exceeded our expectations.
Yes,
The
definitely.
viewership, the comments, the overwhelmingly positive response from
Yeah.
the audience, my friends, even my family, and it's just basically everyone I know was really just happy with how the episode was.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's a great feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what's the best thing that you've heard people say since I mean it came out what just yes well yeah September
Last
25.
night.
Yeah.
Last night.
well, for me, as in the best thing that came out was, aside from Gaya Sa Pelikula being number one, the trending Judith trend.
Yeah, oh my God,
went along
Judith.
with it. Oh my God.
That was so funny.
I was praying with all my heart that it wasn't just going to be funny among the circle. Because
Yeah, I thought it was just gonna be like an inside joke that
Yeah.
nobody found funny.
Yeah.
But then, thankfully, a lot of people really had fun with it too.
Yeah.
Like they were in on the joke. And
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny as in like seeing like Ate Judith specifically
Judith,
trend
Judith.
also. Yeah, Judith.
Yeah.
Sp-
It's so
like, it
much
was
fun.
good.
My
she's so
favorite
much
thing
fun.
about it is because parang it wasn't just about us two.
Yeah,
na,
it's
it
not
was,
just about us.
us two, because we were mostly the two most visible characters through the
Mhm.
trailer, through the teaser, and now parang there are other elements added to the story that people are invested in and
Yeah.
enjoying right now. And
Definitely.
yeah, I hope everyone's going, and I hope we meet the expectations then come the next episode.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
remain positively, cautiously optimistic about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good way to remain, I guess.
Remain
I lost the word there. So what do you think it is about your characters that I don't know that speaks to people, that Carl and Vlad? I mean, we've seen the tropes in
definitely.
rom-coms and BL shows, you know, the bad boy and you know this like geeky kid. And what do you think is it about them that beyond that relates to people?
Well, I think personally, it resonates with people because more than just playing parts, it is really like playing people.
Mhm.
You know, which is one of the main things naman talaga that we advocate during the show. It's like, as much as there are like these tropes in romance and BLs, it's yeah, it's the primary thing talaga is like we are real people.
Mm.
The characters rather are like real people, and they just happen
Right.
to fall into these tropes, you know. But they have real aspirations, real dreams, they have real goals in
Mhm.
life, and
Mhm.
real given circumstances.
Yeah,
So I think that's why it
I
it
definitely
resonates.
agree. Definitely agree with Ian in that. I think what separates our characters is that I th- of all based on my experience, lang to, this is just personal. I feel that their characters are the most palpable and real, and that they really, through us, through the team, through the whole crew, the production, and that it transcends the archetypes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's one of the goals of the series is just to um again unravel society's
Yeah.
hypocrisy and question its social mores. And
Mhm.
the best way I could do that is to make them as real as possible, to be as specific as
Yes,
possible,
specific.
for that,
Yes, yeah.
so that people would relate to it because feelings are universal,
Mhm.
diba? Despite
Yeah.
the different experiences that we're encountering, as long as the feelings remain the same, people would be able to relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm interested in what you said just now. Like you said that the show is also about dismantling. What was the term you used? Dismantling.
Unraveling society's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, which is
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
Well,
like it's a BL show, and by convention, like BL shows are they're just like escapism. It's fantasy. It's fun.
Yeah.
But then there's this other layer of that. Um, was that
Well,
conscious on
I
any?
would say yes.
definitely. I
Yeah.
would say parang it's not the end goal,
Mm-hmm.
but there was definitely like a conscious effort there
Mm-hmm.
because part of making films and TV talaga is shaping the tastes of what is palpable to the general public. Parang up until recently, parang people never really questioned a lot of the tropes that happened in TV or movies. Like for example, like the trope of the gay character always just being comic relief and
Mm-hmm.
having no further substance other than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
It's just token appreciation.
yeah, it's just token appreciation. So by creating shows like these and like showing characters with more depth, you sort of like mold what the general public thinks about
Mm-hmm.
when they think of like, oh, the gay character. Does it automatically have to mean na parang it's like, you get what I mean?
It's
Yun. So parang that's what we mean by when we say na parang there is this conscious effort talaga of
Mm.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and when you look at the amount of material highlighting queer people in media, but despite the number of queer people in the industry, all you see are just side characters
Yeah.
and then just where we never take yung the lead part. And diba? And it's really exciting that the conversations that are happening right now, diba? The Academy Awards has established these standards on representation from the
Yeah.
cast, the crew, to the storyline. Diba? It's such an amazing thing to be making movies right now despite the political landscape, despite despite the pandemic. So yeah, it's just
it's really just I mean like if
it's
you
a
think
unique
about it, it's just like
experience.
leveling naman talaga the playing field
Mhm.
because like
Yeah, for sure. It's like taking back your story as the creator has said time and time again. I'm just curious, you guys are the actors of the show, and I mean, people might say, okay, you're there to play a part, to learn the lines, but it feels like, just you guys telling me about the show, you've gone more into like the heart of it. You've learned. Did you actually like study like anything about inclusivity, about gender equality and soji?
definitely. I mean like part of our rehearsal process for the show was actually having yung mga soji workshops
Mhm.
so that we're more aware of like all of these different realities na
Mhm.
parang while we can't like portray all of them because our knowledge is limited lang talaga. But then yun nga, even though it's limited, we try the best that we can to have this sort of like responsible storytelling and as holistic as possible to the LGBTQ realities.
Yes.
So yun, we had soji workshops, we also consult and yung team namin is parang a lot of them are members of the LGBTQ community.
Mhm.
So parang there's that discourse talaga in the process of making this whole production.
Yeah, and ako naman, I considered myself an LGBTQIA plus advocate ever since way before way before I was ever considered of the series. So for me, it was just something where I could amplify my voice and then elevate the discussion that I could bring to the community at large, so that we could be able to best represent. I could be able to best represent my community by highlighting struggle in the best way that I can, and that it would be real, and that it would be relatable, and that it would strike people as something where they could find solace in. So to me, as in, I felt really at home with the Soji workshops, with the interviews, and that even when I started, the first thing that that someone asked me in the interview was, what pronouns would I like to be referred as? So parang, and that was the first time I heard it in an interview, and that I think that was progress
Mhm.
progress because diba? It says a lot about how we perceive gender,
How we welcome it.
how we welcome these communities, how we no longer think that gender is binary, that conversations about sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, sexual characteristics, and all that are and should be the discourse of today.
Mhm. You just brought it up, so and I just realized I didn't ask. Like, what pronouns do you guys?
I'm he, him.
Hey, him.
How are you?
Yeah, just to be clear. So you mentioned like Soji workshops, and of course you're playing queer characters. Was there anything new that you learned throughout the show?
Take this one.
A lot, Jesus, a lot. Because I didn't consider myself a legitimate actor before Gaya Sa Pelikula. I mean, you probably, I would write down that I've been in commercials and stuff, but then uh, those are products. And then for me, my response remains the same, that I think that the main product of Gaya Sa Pelikula is its message and not the actual show. So yeah, and learning a lot of things. Yeah, yes, we did. I did learn a lot of things since I'm new to acting. I'm new to being able to really go super incredibly deep into someone's experience, and then be empathic, listen to someone else's story, and that. So for me personally, I really learned a lot from it, in that I am now able to not just detach myself from a situation, but really reinforce I how I empathize with people. For me, that was my great, and
Through the character.
yeah, through the character, through learning about Carl.
Yeah.
Without spoiling.
Without spoiling. Yeah, we're just talking about this in generalized terms. For me naman, I think I learned throughout the process talaga how many different layers there are to creating a show. Because working as an actor, parang you're sort of focused on making sure the character is real, but part of making sure that that character is real is the production design by our amazing
Amazing.
Maulan
Maulan
Fadul. I love her.
Yeah.
She creates all of these wonderful sets and all of these wonderful props that you build relationships with as the character. Through our wonderful director JP Habak, through our wonderful writer, making all of these like different inputs from all of these different brilliant people to create this one final product, and it's just amazing. It's an amazing like process talaga na parang as much as we are the poster boys for this project, it's like everybody was just amazing. I swear to God.
A whole village was behind it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It takes a village to raise a kid.
And a village to raise a show.
Yeah. So you mentioned the process now that we're talking about the process. This was filmed. There was an added layer to filming because you were doing it with all these safety protocols in place. And I think Ian, you mentioned at the press conference that it was a challenge to connect like behind the mask and a face shield. So what was the dynamic behind the scenes, like while you were filming? What was the dynamic like? Parang naiiyak kayo.
We were in a scene where I was crying. And I'm sorry, I'm spoiled. I just spoiled. It was a heavy scene, and then it turns out Ate Judith had her face shield, so we had to run the whole take, and it was just so funny.
Bigay na siya, tapos
My face shield pala. And then
I mean, like, it was. Well, what I will say though is na even though there are those limitations na parang hello, nakamask kayo tapos magkakanin kayo. One thing that made it a lot easier was na because nga it was locked in due to the quarantine, diba? Like nobody allowed to like go in and out for the safety protocols. So parang you can imagine this one big group of people is in this one location, and then like we're
only
working,
allowed to interact with each other.
Yeah, with each other. So what ended up happening was like we ended up like having a really like close relationship with a lot of them.
Yeah, similar to a high school retreat.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was so funny. As in, like, like usually kasi kapag productions, like may mga nag-aaway, may drama, ganyan. So like,
It went,
it
we,
went so
yeah,
well.
we sailed like with clear skies throughout the journey.
And then like you can ask sila Gege, they would just like invent fights just to make things more spicy.
Yeah,
Oh
it was
my
fun.
goodness.
Yeah, but the pandemic really hit all of us hard. So
Yeah.
the only way to carry the burden for me was to make it light. So I
Oh,
tried as much as
It's a
I
good
can
point.
to bring a lot of, you know,
Joy.
the joy into the project because a lot of people have lost their jobs during the pandemic. So I having a job at this time is a
Yeah,
privilege.
it's just something
it's
to
a
be
privilege.
thankful
Yeah,
for. Yeah.
it's something to be thankful for, and of course, being somebody who would be a healthcare provider in the future, I made sure that all the product protocols I would be following stringently, and then I would also be more conscious of everyone's behavior so that we could all be safe and we would be able to conduct the shooting without any delay and any adverse events for anyone's health.
And
Yeah.
any like added stress, but because like the
Mm.
pandemic is already stressful.
The pandemic is
Yeah.
already stressful on all of us, and we already had to read like a 65-page guidelines by
Wow. You had to really read through the whole of it.
I read through the whole of it and then
Wow.
did it.
I
Just
did too.
kidding.
I did too.
Lies. Liza Minnelli. And yeah. But yeah, I really just appreciate everyone's conscious effort to make the whole thing safe and
Yeah.
for us to be able to do it without any hesitations. So,
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned keeping it light. Was there anything you did like behind the scene or like at the end of a shooting day to just, loosen up and unwind?
I just left. I'm sorry.
It
I
was-
just I'm trying
it
to
was
make
a
I'm trying to
crazy
give you a
time.
profound response, Amanda, I swear. But like I
Yeah.
just left because it was all just reading through the script. Or if I'm not reading through the script, I'm just
It's just like
yeah.
contemplating your
Yeah.
existence. In
I
this
think
project. Am
by
I
making
doing
it
a
light,
good
like
job?
not being a cause of delay, that was my
Yeah.
main goal. And
No, I mean like literally. That was like.
and just doing my job well because I think
Yeah.
diba?
I mean, at
Yes.
the end of the day, you'd think that you'd have time for all of these like collecting your thoughts things.
No. We
No,
were
it's
just 30.
just
We were just
long.
30 in the production, right?
Shooting
And
it.
then
Yeah, and the thing is, like, since it's a romance between like primarily two characters, like those two characters are gonna be like on set most of the time. So it's like the entire time that you're shooting, you're there, and then it's just like
yeah, and I just made sure that I was ready for a take and then just tried to be as professional as possible. That's what I meant by being light and that doing my job. And I think a lot of young kids could take a note from
learn
Man,
from
learn from
Kuya Paolo.
yeah.
Kuya Paolo. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm interested in like let's go back to the beginning. I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this already before, but I'm curious how you became part of the show, especially you, Pao, because you're a med student and it's so different, like to suddenly be the star of a BL show. So how did you guys come to be part of the show and why did you decide to be part of the show?
I want to hear your story.
Well, my story was primarily parang when the project was announced, they had open auditions. And my close friends were all being like, "Hey, I think you do like a really good job in this project." And then when I saw it, it was Juan Miguel Severo, which is like at the time talaga like one of the people I've been always wanting to work with ever since I saw one of his movies, Hintayin ng Langit, like and ayun, parang for me it was this journey of like it was this really nice journey of like, oh my gosh, here's my idol. And honestly, I'm scared to audition, but parang I sent in my audition and then he just had the most heartwarming response, which I won't share anymore, but it was really, really just like this heartwarming response. And ever since then,
That's a really nice story. I'm gonna try to beat it. Just kidding. Well, Gege and I, the series creator, are friends. We've been friends since 2017. So, and he didn't have any inkling that I would be a prospect in the project. But then he just messaged me one time and asked if he could run through his pitch to Globe Studios, the first one he's going to pitch his idea with on what's the preposition with. So
Two, actually.
yeah, two.
Yeah.
So yun, and then yeah, he's just behind. So yun, when he he basically ran through the whole pitch, and I was just working, and then I was too busy with med stuff, and I was just like, oh, that's nice. And then
That's
but I just tried to say encouraging words then. Yeah, it truly was nice and it was profound. And I think that really eventually, after like some time, I found out I gathered my thoughts and
You
then
got
yeah,
invested.
and I was invested in the story. So like when he tweeted online about the auditions and then after this was after he posted the Wattpad stories, no? When he tweeted about the auditions. Some people tagged me na para I look like the Vlad. I look like
Oh.
Vlad. And parang, and I was like, ooh, okay. And then Gege invited me to audition, and so I did. But then I really wasn't thinking that I was gonna get it because my acting chops were really bad. But then I got a call.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest is history. And then we swapped roles,
Yeah.
but we auditioned
Oh,
for both.
really?
I mean,
Yeah.
we auditioned for both roles, but the initial peg, purely based off of like aesthetics, like yung
Yeah, that I
pictures
look-
side by side. People initially thought that I looked like Carl and he looked like Vlad.
Mm.
But then
Oh,
when we
wow.
actually scene,
When we actually did the scene,
when we
and,
did the scene,
yeah,
it
like,
was
and
like,
that I was a comedy queen, so like I got card.
Yeah.
When you
I mean-
were when you had first read the stories, who did you identify with more?
Vlad. Ako Vlad talaga.
Ako Carl rin actually. Like I
Mm.
mean, purely based off of like
Persona outside.
persona,
Yeah.
persona
Like,
outside.
outside.
Because like I am like this perfectionist when it comes to work, and Carl is very like he's like
very anal. Yeah.
about things.
Look at that look.
Yeah. So this
Like,
this
It was the right word, but
Well, especially like Vlad because he had a lot of barriers, and I consider myself as someone who has a lot of barriers before you would be able to
oh yeah,
like diba,
oh
to
yeah.
really get to know yung the what I really have in my heart. Oh, just kidding. Yeah, and so I really related to how Vlad was, exuding this persona of that. So, but then eventually when we got the Gege sent us yung who is Carl and who is Vlad, PDF versions of them, and then just descriptions of their life, and then their motives, and then their demons, so to speak. I was really sold. I knew that the role was for me. Then
that Carl you mean is for you. Yeah.
Carl
The role.
was
I wonder if just a thought, like, is it because you identify so much with the opposite character that
You sort of feel for them though.
yeah.
did that help your performance at some
Yeah.
Definitely. It was this whole. I mean, like for me, because personally, I always wanted to go into movies because as a kid, like whenever I'd go through a rough time, I'd identify with movies. I would like relate with the characters there, and it would make me feel a little bit less alone. So like knowing that like this younger version of Ian, could be somebody that is incorporated into the story made all the difference because it was giving him that kind of life, I guess, na parang I also want to give so many other people just by being in this, parang in the setup na I create characters and create stories for other people to see. So yeah, it was great. It was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah, same ditto.
Yeah.
Wow.
Simple as that. So so there's a lot of movie references also in this. I mean the poster pa lang puro movies, Filipino movies na. Did you have to watch any or catch up on your Pinoy movie history to prepare for the show?
Well, we are in general, we watched naman a lot of those
Yeah.
films talaga. But then the point naman of
Juday. Piolo
yeah,
Juday.
the point of the point the thrust rather. But I feel like si JP would be able to answer this question better later on. JP as in our director.
Yeah.
But the vision naman talaga here is na um, there are a bunch of scenarios that are present in all of these movies, and or rather, not even just specifically those movies in particular that we made posters of, but in general rom-coms
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
romance films. There are all of these scenarios now na parang we could never really imagine in the
Portrayed.
portrayed in the LGBTQ context because we've never seen it. Um, so yun, parang like that's as much as I can say na lang without spoiling anything. But then the vision there is to sort of say na like here are all of these scenarios, and regardless of whatever context that they used in that movie in particular, which is why yun nga parang as much as like we have not watched some of the films, parang that's not the point. The point is like as like whatever context that they had there, you could also have a context for it happening in an LGBTQ narrative.
Ako
Yeah,
naman.
parang ganun.
Yeah, we saw yung mga references when we were reading the lines already.
Oh yeah.
Table reading na namin nakuha yung, and then every scene,
I
every
wanna
scene,
say spoilers.
every after episode, parang direct would give us the
scene
sequence,
itself.
the
Yeah,
scene
yeah.
itself,
The
and then
scene study, basically.
yeah, and prior to when we would have those scenes, when we would lift off references from those scenes, I would personally come to direct and then ask to review those scenes so that I would be able to perform them. I thought of it as like 75% Carl and then 25% whoever we're referring to as. So like I could still give it so that people would have a balance of relatability and still find it contextual in Carl's narrative. So yeah, that's how I prepared for it. But then see all of the movies at once, I didn't get to do that. But I rewatched Tayo na Langit because I cried throughout the movie. Like I was at the box screening with Gege.
And Catherine
And-
Bernard.
Yeah, Catherine Bernardo and then Daniel Padilla. And I was just crying through my popcorn. So it was just fun. So exciting to have them portrayed in an LGBTQ perspective.
Yeah. What's your favorite Filipino rom-com?
That's a good question.
Mine is Catherine and Al. It's not a rom com because it's a lot of crying.
No, it is. I think
A
it's
romantic movie.
It's Catherine
Rom-dramedy.
Rom-dramedy. Catherine and Alden's movie. I still
Hello, Love,
keep
Goodbye.
Hello,
forgetting
Love,
about it.
Goodbye.
that was really good. That was
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It was just I didn't see her as Catherine anymore in that movie. I saw her as
I think I have three. Sorry,
What?
that's three. Because I'm like really into mumblecore movies, which started for my love for that thing called that
Mhm.
and all things Angelica Panganiban.
coronavirus. My legs. Angelic Panganiban.
Yeah, okay. So like I love mumblecore movies.
What
So
are
like I love
mumblecore movies?
mumblecore is basically like it's a genre in is it romance talaga?
No,
Not necessarily, diba? Yeah. It's a genre in movies where the
basically.
it's basically like the
Yeah.
yeah. The most prominent one that I can name is probably Before Sunrise.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
before-
that's like
For
Yung
Sunrising
Mumblecore.
first.
Pero yung Mumblecore
It's
realism.
all three of them. All three
the
of them.
trilogy.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
that's what we studied.
Yeah, that's what we studied.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Oh.
yeah, I've always been into that because it's like, it's like real people. So yung tatlo ko are, I would say, parang may ganong feel, even if they're not necessarily mumblecore. So it's like that thing called Tadhana, Excess Baggage, and
Oh,
I'm
Excess
Drunk, I
Baggage.
Love You. Yeah, and I'm Drunk, I Love You.
Ah. You as in yung I'm Drunk, I Love You, tas ngayon director mo na siya, si JP.
I know, it's so insane. It's like it's so funny because like my friends and I always used to reference that movie na like
Pathway.
when we were like our typical dumb college selves, we were like, hello, parang when will my feelings for person X um like ganyan, ganyan. And
Reciprocated.
then we'd always reference the movie na hala, kailan tayo graduate? Kailan tayo graduate? 7 years ba? 7 years?
7 years.
Tapos parang natawa na lang ako, guys, yung director ng movie yung mga katrabaho ko. Parang ang weird.
Fanboy moment.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely a fanboy. So yeah, it's like wow. What am I? Is this real? Is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not only did he direct you, but also like I believe they mentioned this at the press conference that these stories are very personal to them, like not just to the writer but also to the director. So for you guys, knowing that, may personal thing,
Really.
connection sila sa stories, how did that feel that you had to bring it to life?
I think as much as it's like a personal story kasi, and like of course like it's an honor to be able to like also transformed na into the character stories. Parang one thing na Gege used to say actually struck me really well was like um as much as they wrote the characters and they have all of these scenes planned out, there will come a time na because you as an actor have studied the character, you will know the character better than the people who wrote those characters. Um,
Right.
so yon, parang that was one of the biggest like wow moments to me na parang wow, I'm telling their story, but also I'm telling the story of my character, which is like I hope that doesn't
I
sound
agree.
pretentious, but
I
like
agree.
it's
Yeah, I agree. And then, your respect for the work will truly manifest in your ownership of it. I know
oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I do not have 100% ownership of Carl because a lot of people created Carl. It was and it occurred at different stages throughout its conception. Gege first wrote Carl, and then direct tried to
There was a time
translate
na,
it
yeah,
into
yeah.
screen, and then
There was a time
Maulen
na
tried to bring life to it through color, through items, and through through the whole background. And then I considered myself, and I still think of myself as the vessel for which Carl would be portrayed. So I think it's all a collaborative effort, and what I mostly felt through the process where we were rehearsing the lines, but this was that I was slowly siphoning Carl's energy from writing to screen to a human being. So yeah, it was all a spiritual experience.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds almost like alchemy. Parang siphoning.
Astral projection, and then like
Yeah.
but then that's the thing. Like a lot of people kasi assume that acting is just like say your lines with emotion. But
mm,
actually like if you study talaga the work of the best of the best, it also goes through all of these processes of like consulting with the director, with the writer, and building the character based off of the set, based off of the time, based off of the and all of these different things. And parang as much as acting is associated with all of these glitz and glamours of fame, ganyan, parang at the
No,
core of
which
it
I don't
talaga.
which I don't care for, honestly.
Same.
Sorry.
Anyway,
Sorry.
but then at the core of acting talaga, it's really it's a lot of hard work and technique, and yeah, it's professional work as much as it is art.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well said.
That's it. That's interesting. I think a lot of people forget that. good
Oh
good
my
to be
god!
reminded. Yeah. Guys,
And
keyword
actually, like, once you have an appreciation for like that aspect of it, like you'll see all of these like award-winning Oscar, like that's what I do. Like I see them on like on film, all of these like award-winning actors and actresses, and then I'm just like, oh my god,
And
their
then so
work is
doing, diba,
amazing.
it elevates how we consume them, and then the
Yeah,
audience develops a
Yeah.
taste.
Yeah.
What is better?
Yeah.
And what
So, Gaya Sa Pelikula, I feel like because it's so close to, it references a lot of Filipino films. It's a BL show which is very on trend It's on the
Yes.
internet and free to watch. So I feel like the potential for the show to explode, it has the potential to explode in a good way. Do you feel like, because you're the faces of it, you're the poster boys, literally, that there, do you feel like there's pressure also because this show has, a very, at the heart of it, like you said, it's about um, the LGBT community and taking back the LGBT community story. So do you feel any pressure to speak about certain things or not speak about certain things because you're at the center of it all?
I feel like there's literally no pressure for me not to say things. There's great pressure for me to say things, being that I am the poster boy. So all of the brilliant, the diba, the soulful, uh, and just the incredibly amazing heart that was put into this project should be, diba, should be laid out there by people who are visible, such as us. So there is a lot of pressure for me, but then I've always past even way before this project, I've always considered myself as someone who is strong enough to deliver messages, and I think that's what made me become that's what I don't know, helped me a lot in the casting process, because acting wise I was just in the, I was just I was just average. So
I
yeah,
don't get why you're so self-deprecating all the time. You weren't
I
bad.
wasn't that good. Well, yeah. So for me, especially now that there are a lot of things that we should speak about, especially during this time, we should all. Uh, so I feel like I'm always through art, through entertainment, it, am smuggling messages,
Yeah.
uh, smuggling an agenda of um just transforming how the society thinks about not just LGBTQIA narratives, but also politics, education, media, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it, and I think it motivates me a lot, and that it really just pushes me forward to speak up more about certain issues that we all feel strongly about, and to always educate myself to keep to keep at par with the evolving conversations of the time.
Yeah.
For me naman, I mean, I guess since he talked about those like so many different aspects, now I'll talk more about like me as an actor. And parang the 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 goal naman talaga for me is like making things a little bit easier one movie or one series at a time.
Mhm.
So yun lang talaga yung parang binibigyan ko ng effort. Making sure that the work that I put out there is like the best that it can be. To yun nga, parang make society better one series, one movie at a time. Um, and uh, and yun, parang ako naman kasi I don't claim to be able to like have as big a platform as all of these like big
Mhm.
names that we
Mhm.
see like on the daily. So that's really what I focus my efforts on.
Mhm.
Um, my work.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So now, because you mentioned, Paolo, you mentioned like an agenda, and it's out there. You're acting, speaking up with an agenda, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Do you think other artists should be doing the same thing?
Definitely. Thank you for that question. That's the best question I've been ever asked in any interview. I really think that everyone who has a privilege, who has a platform, should speak out, because they reach to a greater amount of audience, is able to um, be more relatable, and to just being the privilege of being visible already gives you a responsibility to educate yourselves among the plight of the people who have helped you become become who you are.
yeah.
Someone who has a platform, someone who is able to speak up about things and to have people know of their message. So I think it's really important for artists now and artists who up and coming budding artists to at first at the core be able to find something of or find at least find the community who you can represent or to at least be an ally of,
Yeah.
not just LGBTQIA communities, but indigenous peoples, the poor, and basically those who, even most especially those who are politically oppressed, especially at this time.
Yeah.
So,
I
How would
mean,
you?
I guess yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I guess my answer lang naman talaga is like a summary of like what he said, which is like at least make your work mean something. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Parang like if you're in it for just money and fame,
mhm,
I mean, parang but you sort of have to question like sort of what you do your work for then. I
Yeah.
guess. So parang yun, parang it doesn't have to necessarily be LGBTQ issues, but rather parang just parang if you're given that big a platform, make it mean something to somebody.
mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Because if not, you just basically took advantage of, diba? Because all a lot of look at our communities. A lot of them are LGBTQIA. A lot of them are poor. A lot of them, diba, don't have as much privilege as you. So
Mhm.
when you do have the privilege, you should at least speak up about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I just want to keep saying that. To register to
Yeah.
vote. Defend
Plus,
press freedom.
if you're telling their stories, right? You have to like, you're not just riding on the back of their stories. I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly.
Yeah.
Parang yeah. Parang if you're gonna go into a BL without supporting like LGBTQ rights, you just basically use their community for
Mhm.
fame.
Yes.
That's
Wholeheartedly
what I
agree with
think.
Mm.
So yeah. Parang it's like those different parallels in real life,
Yeah.
not just contained in the parang this BL trope, but in general.
Mhm.
Okay. So before like we wrap it up, I mean, thank you guys for talking to me. But I would like to play a little bit of a game. Game
Oh,
A.
Let's go. Let's play a game.
Baka ma-corny yan kaya. Pero like we played this before with who was it? I think it was SB19 that played this game, and I don't know. I'm intrigued because you guys have been on lockdown or locked in. Locked in. You've been locked in during the shoot, so I'm guessing you've learned a lot about each other in that time. So
I'm
let's
gonna win this game. I'm so
you
sure.
guys tell me.
He's gonna win. I'm so bad.
Just tell me sino ang pinaka. That's the game.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
turo nyo lang.
Mhm.
Tapos, yeah. So, first, sino ang pinaka-likely na mali? Bakit?
I'm from UP Pep. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Simple as that. Sino ang pinakamatagal mag-ready?
Sometimes matagal ka rin eh.
Hindi.
Lies.
Hindi.
Parang mas matagal si Paul. Mas maaga kasi siyang gumising.
Oo, mas matagal ako kasi mas maaga akong gumigising. Okay.
So, sabay kayo natatapos, pero mas matagal ka. Okay.
Hindi, mas nauna pa rin po ako nakarating. Pero, like, mas matagal pa. Okay. Yeah.
Sino ang pinakamatakaw?
Inubos ko yung food props. Galit naman sa akin lahat eh.
Oh yeah. Tirador.
And true UP
Oh my God, as in like there was this one time na parang may mga kagat na yung food props. So like iniikot na lang namin para hindi kita.
Okay.
Wala na po
Ito may
palang sobra
kasalanan.
dun sa siopaw. Kinagat ako na. So, para like, tinago ko lang. So,
Okay lang yan. Pero pag may makita yung viewers sa show.
Makita ko yung
Easter egg daw.
Ito yan.
Yes, alam niyo na. Sino ang pinaka-perfectionist? I think na-mention yun na to kanina. Sino ang pinaka-corny?
We're both corny.
Oh, we're
both corny.
Let's
It's like we just laugh at each other's jokes because we're both sucky at jokes.
I love it. That's why siguro that answers.
Okay, Amanda, I'm gonna say a joke and then tell me if
Okay,
it's
okay.
funny.
No,
Okay.
I'm scared.
Ano to? Ano yun?
Ano?
Duwende na nagbukas ng electric fan. Tumawa ko na, please. Fine. Okay. We're both corny. Okay.
Dapat Ian mag-joke ka rin para ma-prove mo rin.
Oh, okay. Knock.
Who's there?
UP.
UP who?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. UP!
Oh my God, mas corny si Ian.
Okay. Mas corny si Ian.
Okay, mas corny ako.
Yeah, we have determined. Mas corny si Ian. By just a little bit. Just a little bit. Sino ang pinakamababaw ang luha? Like, give one instance.
I don't wanna spoil.
No spoilers.
No,
but
it's no spoilers.
sobrang siya.
It's me.
Pero sobrang siya.
Okay, we'll find out. Watch the show. Sino, well, dalawa lang kayo, pero sino pinaka gusto nyo makasama sa isang desert island? Desert island? Deserted island.
Yeah.
Bakit? Ano mangyayari? Kunyari na stranded kayo.
And he's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Diba? So,
I mean, if we die, at least we'll die laughing.
oh yeah. So,
With your corny jokes.
With the corny jokes.
with the corny jokes.
Sino ang pinaka street smart? I love
Sobra. I'm like, not because he's good, but because I'm just so bad.
it. Right. So between the two of you, siya yung mas street smart. Sino ang pinaka pikon?
Pinakapikon.
Bakit?
As in, the thing is, I get cranky really easily. So parang in the morning, madali ako mapikon. Tapos I also get cranky at night kapag stressed na. So he can tell kasi parang, what is it you told me before? Like my breathing changes.
His breathing pattern
Oh, wow.
changes.
Like when I'm stressed, I'm just like,
Oh my God. alam niyo na agad. Okay.
love my
So-
sleep. This is I love sleep.
Yeah, you're not a morning person. Okay, noted. Sino ang pinakamalambing?
No, because the thing is, like, we have this dynamic na if like one person's stressed, the other person tries not to be stressed. Para hindi kami magsabay on set. So yeah, it's just like give and take.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Okay, yun lang. May gusto pa ba kayong ibunyag? Sino ang pinaka...
Ano daw?
Sino ang pinaka...
Binunod kasi siya. Hindi ko alam kung sino.
Ang kalat mo!
Sorry, ano pinaka ano?
Okay, sino ang pinaka likely na magsabi ng spoilers? Si Paolo. So if ever may gustong ma-spoil, talk to Paolo.
And then actually, nag-spoiler moment rin ako. So I guess, pero shut
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Wala naman kayo na-reveal. I feel like we've been like going through a landmine of spoilers that you guys done so well. You haven't revealed anything, I think.
Thank
So
you, man.
on that note, like without spoilers, what can the viewers look forward to in the following episodes of Gaya Sa Pelikula?
Well, I do hope that people watch because Gaya Sa Pelikula is more than anything a celebration of human life. Hala! Sorry, did that come off too highfalutin?
Please, diba?
Grey's Anatomy.
This is RuPaul's Drag Race.
No, okay. You have to listen first. Listen to my answer first. Because as much as it is a BL series and about the LGBTQ people, everybody in that series has such a wonderful character to them, has such a wonderful backstory to them. And it's just going to be so much fun unraveling all of that with everybody watching in the audience. So I do hope you guys get to see it because there is a character for everybody.
I'm just gonna say
Oh.
your first lines na lang. Gaya Sa Pelikula, 8 p.m. on Fridays, directed by JP Haba.
8 p.m.
8
on
p.m. Globe Studios YouTube channel. Written by Juan Miguel Severo, starring Paolo Pangilinan and Ian Pangilinan. Yun. Diba? Walang spoilers. Hey!
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Amanda.
Rappler.
congratulations on your new show.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Mm.